Hi, I'm Will Jarvis.
And I'm Will's dad.
We both love and are fascinated by stories.
Stories about people.
Stories about places.
And stories about events.
Our stories give shape and form to life.
They give texture, color, and rhythm to the blank canvas that every new day presents to us.
And they do that by informing us of our past as a directional marker for our future.
Okay, Will, it's narrative time. Tell me a story.
Hey folks, I hope you're all doing well today. It's a beautiful summer evening in August here in Fleetwood, North Carolina. Looking off the porch here at some nice looking mountains. We've got Avery Barr here with me. I've known Avery. Avery, how many years have I known you now?
It'd be 2012. So
oh my God. 8 years.
About 8 years on the
Good Lord.
on the dot.
Good Lord. Do you remember how we met?
I just remember we lived across the hall from each other freshman year.
Granville Towers,
Granville
the
Towers.
academic floor. And who would believe that now?
And you played mandolin, and I played mandolin and guitar, and
it was a
my
match
roommate
made.
played banjo, guitar, mandolin.
Wesley, we're going to have him on the show sometime too.
Dr.
Absolutely.
Roten.
Yeah, we kind of bonded over bluegrass music, folk music, good stuff. Avery's quite talented musician as well. He's now taking up the bass as well, which I think is pretty cool.
It's a lot of fun. I've enjoyed it.
Definitely.
I don't like the solo, so no one expects the bass to
Right.
solo anything.
Exactly.
So
No, they don't. Yeah, it's awesome, man. So you graduated from UNC with me in 2016, right? And you majored in biology and history, which I think is pretty awesome. And can you tell us a little bit about what you do now? And this is part of the reason why we're having the podcast, because I think this is super fascinating.
So I'm a third-generation Christmas tree farmer in Ashe County, North Carolina. And our farm started in the 1960s with my grandpa. And
That's awesome.
then my dad took over in 2007.
Very cool. Very cool. And where do you guys have farms?
We're based out of Crumpler, North Carolina, home of Shatley Springs
Very nice.
restaurant. If got some good family-style breakfast and fried chicken.
Fried chicken. Check it
10
out.
out of 10 would recommend.
10 out of 10 would recommend.
We have farms in Virginia, Mouth of Wilson, Rugby, just right over the border.
Nice.
And then we also have some in West Jefferson.
That's awesome.
Various other little places around Ashe County.
That's really cool. So if you think about it, you really are, your life really is a conglomeration of biology and history. Right?
Exactly.
This is a historical farm, right? It's perfect.
Yes.
Perfect. Very cool. So get started off. Can you tell us a little bit about the Christmas tree growing process, what that looks like, how long it takes, how involved it is,
Yeah. So from seed, you're looking at 5 years to get the first foot, and then after that, it's about a foot a year. So for a 7 to 8 foot tree, you're looking at 10 to 13 years.
Oh, wow. So it involves a lot of pre-planning.
Mm-hmm.
That's super
then,
interesting.
so you have to plant your fields close, and then go through and slowly kind of thin them out so that you're able to grow bigger trees and they're not growing in on each other and causing damage.
Gotcha. So on a yearly basis, so you plant them. So where do you get the seeds from, first off?
So the seed comes from one of 5 places in the Appalachian Mountains. And they're the 5 naturally occurring seed sources for Fraser fir.
Very cool.
And it's like Roan Mountain, White Top Mountain, Virginia, Balsam Highlands down near Asheville.
Gotcha.
And Mount Mitchell. And there's maybe one more. I think I only did 4.
Very cool.
But so that's where they naturally occur, and that's where the seed comes from. And so 5 years ago we started growing from seed, and so that we start planting seed in March, April, May.
Gotcha. That's a good time to do it.
Good time to do it. Usually you don't have to worry about frost or any sort of late winter shenanigans.
Right, absolutely. Winter's coming.
North Carolina, we're known to have spring and second spring. And
A lot of
late
weird,
winter, yeah.
weird weather patterns. That's interesting. So, So you grow Fraser firs, is that correct?
North Carolina Fraser fir.
And so this is the only place they occur is on those 5 naturally occurring.
Yeah.
Very cool. And have they been bred at all to their current standard, or what? Do you know what that looks like?
Yeah. So they and we're actually it's Dr. John Frampton. He did a lot of work with Christmas tree genetics at NC State, and he just has retired. And so he started a kind of an experiment, got families from all 5 of the naturally occurring ranges and bred them and grew them out and selected. And so and then he's created the NC Fraser Fir Seed Co-op.
Awesome.
And so it's, I think, the 2nd generation of these selected families that should have high needle retention, hopefully some disease resistance.
Very cool.
Maybe have some growth factors that could help accelerate the process.
Right, absolutely. And so I guess looking at the future, I know actually we were talking a couple of days ago, and you mentioned CRISPR-Cas9, which I thought that's awesome. Can you tell us a little bit, just super high level, what CRISPR is and what it could do for kind of Christmas trees down the road? So
CRISPR is a gene editing technique.
That's right.
As I understand it, I don't have a great grasp, but and so they've been able to insert. Ideally, we'd be able to insert maybe some disease resistance genes, such as one of the biggest threats to Fraser fir is Phytophthora root rot, which occurs in the ground. It's a water mold, and it's once it gets into into the ground, it's very difficult, if not almost impossible, to get rid of it, even 20 years down the road.
Really?
And so there are naturally occurring fir species that do have natural resistance to it.
So that's what you're looking
and
for.
So ideally they would have a gene, and we could find that gene and insert it into a Fraser fir. And
gotcha.
Because the Fraser fir is very susceptible.
Really?
To Phytophthora, yeah. It's
man.
then the Phytophthora we have here is one of the more aggressive species, and it's the more susceptible. So it's just a perfect storm for.
Interesting.
And that's why if you're riding through Christmas tree country and you see low flat areas, in riverbanks, it's usually not planted in Fraser fir because it's
that's
usually
high.
They're on slopes and.
Just to avoid that.
Because it travels through water, so.
Interesting. So you just want
any sort of standing water is not great for.
Gotcha.
You're just kind of asking for
trouble. So you opt more for. So that's super interesting. So essentially, what you try to do is avoid it. There's not much you can do if.
Right, avoid it, and then use as much precaution as you can to try to not spread it.
Gotcha.
To good ground.
Interesting. No,
that practice has kind of evolved over time. Over time.
That's super interesting. So I'm assuming there's other types of Christmas trees as well, right?
It started out, one of the early ones was white pine. People would grow white pine because it's fast growing, it's easy to, and then you could also use it for timber.
I see.
So
a lot of dual purpose.
And then there's Douglas fir, which is more of a Pacific Northwest and Pennsylvania area.
Gotcha.
And then concolor fir and balsam fir, which we've actually brought we've brought some in from Canada.
Oh, really? Interesting. Super interesting. So once you have the seeds in the ground, what does kind of maintenance look like for the trees on a yearly basis before they're fully grown?
So it's pesticide applications, herbicides, insecticide, just to kind of keep them healthy.
Right.
Fertilize, of course. And then you've got shearing, which is trimming it, giving it that kind of natural or that cone shape.
Gotcha.
And that also helps with, because like in Europe, they have more loose Christmas trees. They've got more space in between the needles. And so and in America, we like the tight, full tree. So
different style.
Yeah. So you have to shear them and help them get that natural, nice little Christmas shape.
That's super cool. That is super cool. So once you get you've sheared them, you've kept them up, get to year 12, what do? You go in, you kind of shape them up one more time, cut them down. What does that
So
look
you'll
like?
go through. We've got a crew of 2 guys that have been doing it for quite a while. They go through and they tag the trees, whether it's based on height and also quality.
Gotcha.
So we do number 1s, number 2s, number 3s. And your number
Gotcha.
1 should be a really nice Christmas tree. Your number 2s might have a hole, might have a broken, not perfect. And then your number 3s are usually we need to clean a field out.
I see.
It'll do in a pinch as a Christmas tree.
It will be a tree.
It'll be, your Charlie Brown Christmas trees.
Gotcha.
And then a lot of people buy those for to make wreaths and roping.
I see.
They can,
Makes sense.
But so they go through and do that in right now July, August,
Super cool.
and then come Halloween, middle October after Halloween, you go in and cut them down and bale them up and get them loaded on trucks.
And you're good to go.
And
That's
that usually lasts until right around Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Some people, some growers go all the way up until like December 10th, early.
wow.
Kind of depends what sort of stores you're working with and
Right.
how long they want to supply trees.
Right. It's super interesting. So, you've got them. So we're closest to Boone. That's a good reference point.
Yeah.
For people who aren't in the know, shall we say? And where do you guys sell trees? Where
We
can
sell
people
a lot
find
of,
them?
we have one wholesale lot in Wilmington, North Carolina,
Nice.
and we've been in Wilmington for 35 plus years.
Oh wow.
And so it's cool. We've got, we'll have adults now that come in like, oh yeah, I helped your grandpa when he first came down to Wilmington, and they'll have their kids, and
That's
sometimes
cool.
it's even their kids, their grandchildren
That's
are
awesome.
coming to get trees, and we have a lot of loyal customers that have followed us because we've moved several different times
That's super
around
cool.
Wilmington, and so we've had it's been good. And then we do wholesale trees, mainly into the Midwest,
Interesting.
Illinois, Ohio.
Gotcha.
Then we do some Louisiana, a little bit into Florida.
Interesting. Super cool. And where can they find you in Wilmington this year? And I could edit this and add it back. when we get a little closer.
We've been I think we'll be at the corner of Shipyard and Independence.
Very cool. Awesome.
I think they're both boulevards.
Boulevards. That's
Well,
right. That's
yeah.
right. That's awesome.
Close to the Independence Mall, but actually it's not. It's on the other end of Independence,
That's
away
super
from
cool.
the mall. But
Have you, this is a side tangent, and I'm coming off of my outline here, but have you guys ever thought about direct to consumer? You already do direct to consumer with a lot in Wilmington, but I'm thinking kind of startup internet approach, but that's my background. So, running Facebook ads and selling trees directly to consumers, and then delivering them and charging a premium that way for kind of the service.
so we have not. I think Amazon tried
Do they try to
2
do it
years
as a
ago,
mess?
and I think it was much more difficult.
Then it
They had a 6-foot box for a 6 to 7 foot tree.
I just get
And,
crushed and
and
destroyed.
for measurement purposes, a 6-foot tree usually is about 7 foot. 6 to 7 foot tree is about 7 foot to the tip. So
Not
so
quite. Yeah.
the logistics didn't work out, but there have been quite a few different growers do direct to consumer.
try to do that.
Wreaths
Wreaths.
and
Wreaths
have
makes
and
sense.
have pretty good success with it.
Gotcha. Yeah, it sounds like you would almost have to have, you driving the trees as someone to actually make it, work, right? Which is not feasible because there's only one of you.
Yeah, and people are kind of particular with their trees.
That's true. They do like to pick them
They
out.
like
That's
to
a good
pick their
point. That's a
trees.
good
So
point.
if I show them a picture and they don't get that exact tree, they might not be very happy.
Might be a little mad. That's
But-
super interesting.
But way the world changes, that may be the future.
I'm telling. Just something to keep your eye on, I guess,
Yeah.
right? That's cool.
Trademark,
Trade TM, right? Right? We have
copyright.
No doubt, man. No doubt. That's awesome. So I love this because I think Christmas trees. What a cool business, man. You get to work on Christmas all year long.
It is. It's a fun business. And
That's
the only downfall is I usually get in the Christmas spirit 1st of November.
You're in the
So
Christmas
it takes, then by December,
You're like,
I'm kind of burnt out. But
I'm tired of Christmas.
But getting, when we go down to the tree lot,
Yeah.
it makes it a lot easier because then you get all the kids really happy
Running
and excited.
out and they're excited about it. That's cool.
And so that's really the fun part of the
That's
call
really cool.
experiences.
Absolutely. That's awesome. So do you know? I don't know if you have any stories about how your grandfather got into it originally.
So originally our family ran a furniture company,
Interesting.
furniture and chair company, Phoenix Chair.
Gotcha.
And so he was working there, and he just kind of said, I'm going to get into the tree business a little bit, not full time,
Right.
and just on the side dabbled in them. And then sometime in the 60s, the company sold to
Gotcha.
Thomasville,
Ah,
I think. And after that, he decided he would go full time into the
cool, man.
tree business.
And it was born.
And it was born.
Been here ever since.
And I think 67. Don't quote me on that, but it's been a while.
Very cool.
And so he would actually he would travel around and talk to the buyers or the stores.
Right.
And we have some customers that have been with us for quite a while, and they'll call me, how's Wilson? Is he doing well? I haven't seen him in a while.
That's awesome.
And he still comes down to the farm.
Really?
With coronavirus, he was unable. But yeah, just about every day he'll come
Really?
down, and
That is awesome.
I won't say what he does on his computer, but it's plays a lot of solitaire.
Plays a lot
He's
of
there.
He's there. He's there. That's what counts.
He's
That's awesome. That's
he'll
awesome.
be 82
Oh, that's so cool, dude.
I think 82 in December. So
That is super awesome, man.
he's still it's fun. It's a good family, but it's a lot of fun being able to work with your grandparents and your parents
It is.
most of the time.
Yeah, exactly. exactly. That's super interesting. So it's funny. Recently, I was talking about. I may have been talking about Dad on the podcast about this. How farmland is actually a really good asset in terms of we're getting into finance now. Oh God, here I go. And this is a great transition, great segue into some of your finance ventures and things. Side note, SEC, we're not providing any investment advice here. We're just, don't listen to us. But farmland is a really good asset because it's tax advantaged, unlike regular land. And the other thing is it's illiquid. It's hard to sell. So you can actually keep it in families longer. Because, if you or I, we just got a big chunk of stock or something, it's like, oh, well, this is pretty easy to hit sell on Robinhood, right? Whereas farmland, it's like, man, that's pretty difficult to get rid of. You know what I mean? And there's large transaction costs involved with it, which I think is interesting. But you've done a little bit of investing yourself. I know you've got a little club.
We've got a little investment club, M&M
That's awesome.
Investments.
That's awesome.
It's doing pretty good right now. We hit big on Tesla.
Tesla
and Apple have done very well
they've done
for
well.
us.
Done well. That's awesome, man. So you're like Warren Buffett and not Warren Buffett.
Exactly.
That's awesome. That's
I have
cool.
to give credit to my cousin Tyler. He's the Warren Buffett,
The mastermind at
the
operation.
mastermind.
No.
I'm just the yes man.
No, that's cool, man. Everybody needs one.
I just have to walk him off the ledges when he gets a little too excited.
Right. He's like, ooh, man, might want to slow down a little bit. That's awesome.
But
That's really cool. And another interesting fact, we should have brought this up in the beginning, but you're also a high school football coach.
I am.
Is that correct?
Go Huskies.
Yeah. So which
Ash.
team do you coach for?
It's the Ashe County High School, home
Very
of the
cool.
Huskies.
That's awesome. And what do you coach?
I coach the offensive line.
That is awesome. That's all. And how'd you get into it?
Well, I started playing football in the 3rd grade. And
Nice.
it's a funny story. Is the first day of practice, and I don't remember. This is all through tales.
Hearsay.
Hearsay, yeah. So the first day of practice, we were finished, and apparently my dad had told me, if you don't like this, you don't have to play.
Okay.
And so I went to practice, and the head coach was taking me home or taking me back to my dad.
Yeah.
And I looked at him. I said, my dad said, if I don't like this, I don't have to play. But I kind of like this.
That's awesome.
So I've been playing ever since, and I always just enjoyed the sport. I think it's good teamwork.
Right. Absolutely.
Enjoy watching it.
It's a great American game.
Great American game, and so my uncle. Well, I went in the 5th and 6th grade. My dad and my uncle were coaches,
Oh, nice.
and we were
Oh, Rusty.
yeah. And
That's
so
awesome.
I think we might have lost a game. We were
One
very
game.
successful 5th and 6th grade.
Very, very big deal.
You know, ran the no huddle. It was a
awesome.
really advanced offense
Oh, yeah.
for 5th and 6th grade
But
football.
they got it. That's
Had like
awesome.
8 different formations.
Oh, my
and
God.
wristbands, and
Nah, there's most D1 athletes couldn't.
so they
couldn't
had
rock that.
and they talked to Gene Chiswick.
No way.
No,
Seriously.
Gus Malzahn.
Gus
Malzahn is the
Dude, that's
other
awesome.
Auburn
No way.
football
That's
coach.
awesome.
And this was he was in. I think he was still coaching high school.
Oh, really?
So he was kind of a relatively unknown.
That's amazing, dude.
And so they got some trick plays from him, and we had a lot of fun. And then, of course, you know, through high school, kept playing. And,
Right.
And then, so when I got out of college, I told my dad, I said, well, I'd like to start coaching youth football.
Yeah.
You know, not trying to start too high.
Right, you know.
And my uncle was still coaching at the middle school. And so
Nice.
he said, well, I'll talk to Chris and see if he'll let you come on as an assistant. And, of
Yeah.
course, he did. And I helped. So I was the assistant offensive line coach, and I
Nice.
did special teams.
Awesome. That's
so
awesome.
I did that for 2 years. And then actually he retired. After my first year, he retired. We went undefeated, won the Super Bowl.
Nice.
Got a ring. So.
They got rings. Really big rings.
And then the next year we weren't as successful, and
It happens.
that head coach he retired as he kind of stepped down and retired. He had been doing it for
Gotcha.
20 years.
Yeah.
He decided. So at that point, I was kind of in my head. I haven't heard anything from the middle school athletic director, but I was just thinking that I might have to be the head football coach at the
Here
middle
we
school
go.
next year.
Here we go. That's how
And
it
so
begins.
the high school was having spring practice.
Yeah.
And I went and I walked. I just kind of went just to learn the offense because we were
Yeah.
running the same. We were running the air raid,
Nice.
and so I went in. I was just kind of there, just watching, observing, trying to figure out how to be able to teach middle schoolers
Right.
this offense.
And just before we get any farther, what's the air raid for our listeners?
So it's an offense based more on the passing game
Gotcha.
than the running game. But it's based on like space and spreading teams out vertically as well as horizontally,
Gotcha.
and then just kind of attacking space where they're not.
Nice.
And I don't know exactly. I don't want to be sacrilegious because there's some air raid purists. So I won't.
Okay.
But it's been, it's had some successful. I know Cliff Kingsbury's running it in
Yeah.
the NFL, and Mike Leach, who
Mike
I'm
Leach,
a big
Swing your
fan
sword.
of Mike Leach.
Absolutely.
He's now at Mississippi State running the air raid, and there's a Hal. I don't want to butcher his last name, but I think it's Mummy.
Yeah.
Hal Mummy, and I don't want to. I think he was one of the kind of the pioneers of the offense.
Gotcha. So for an air raid offense, I guess you need a good quarterback.
Yeah, good quarterback. And it's the great thing about it is it gives the quarterback a lot of freedom once they kind of get the system and understand how things should work.
Super interesting.
One of Mike Leach's quarterbacks said he would basically look over to Coach Leach, and Coach Leach would tell him, "You check," or you call the play.
Gotcha.
And he'll even do that when he gets mad at him if they're not doing well. He'll say, "Well, you just call the offense."
That's funny. That's funny.
It's on you.
Right. That's super
And so
interesting.
it gives your quarterback a lot of freedom, and it's
Gotcha.
I won't say it's simple,
Yeah.
but I think it's a very friendly offense if you can learn your progressions and your reads.
Very understandable.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Are there any other kind of special player requirements in the air raid that you can think of? So isn't the offensive line spaced out more?
A little more spaced out.
More spaced out. I know Mike Leach is way into that.
Yeah. There was a video with the social distancing, and it was talking about all the coaches during quarantine and with COVID, and it got in one. He was impersonating. He got to Mike Leach, and he said, "Social distancing. All right, make the line split 6 foot." Yeah, he's just
right.
So it's not quite. It's not that big, but they do wider splits,
100%.
and that too also opens up the run game. Create more
Right.
space this way.
Absolutely.
So ideally, you're almost unable to cover it. if you put
Right.
people in the box to stop the run game,
Right.
well, then they're just going to pick you apart on the outside.
Outside.
If you stack up on the outside, we'll hit you inside with all sorts of
Right.
screens and runs. And
Right. That's interesting.
So, not one of the other is if you can have a running back that is also can catch the ball and
That
he
really,
he becomes another threat not only in the run game but within the passing game.
right.
That makes and then of course if your quarterback can run the ball, that's always
That really helps.
Difficult
Really helps.
thing to
Absolutely.
account for.
Really hard to cover.
But
And you've had success with that, kind of teaching that to kids as well.
yeah,
That's super
our
interesting.
offensive coordinator Drew Piscopo's really
Good
been
at doing
really
that.
great.
Nice.
And of course, Brian Hampton
Very
gets
nice.
all the credit.
Gotcha. I know,
He's-
go ahead.
He's more of a defensive coach, so and he's been running the defense and
Nice. That's super
keeping it
interesting.
locked down. But he gets all the credit.
Absolutely. That's super interesting. Yeah, I know Mike Leach. So you actually recommended his book to me, and Abby got it for me, funny enough. It was quite good. One of my favorite things about what Mike said is kind of from a management perspective is making things intelligible. So making sure that the quarterback understands what he needs to do and keeping things simple
Yeah,
instead of having some massive playbook that they have to learn.
and that's when you watch it on film, it seems like a really complicated system,
Yeah.
just because there's so many little variations. But really, our play sheet it's a single sheet of paper,
Nice.
and it's
That's awesome.
and it's basically as complicated as you want to make your call sheet.
Right.
Our play it's 20 plays maybe.
That's awesome.
And that's with your runs and screens and so
Perfect.
it's so I would like to see someone kind of break down,
Yeah.
like scout against it, just to see how complicated they want to try to make it.
Right.
But
Absolutely.
yeah, that's a great analysis.
Very cool.
He executed making it a simple,
That's-
easy to manage offense.
Absolutely. Super cool. And so for you as an offensive line coach, are there things you think about that like the average person or average coach you think misses, like in your approach, that you find important?
No, not necessarily. Not coaches. Now, you have a lot of fans that offensive line's kind of a.
It's the most important part. Funny enough.
It's very important, but you don't get much. You only get credit when you don't do something good.
Right.
It's
Exactly.
not
It's
the
one of
credit
those
you
things.
want to receive.
Absolutely.
And so I've just noticed that sometimes they'll be giving the offensive line a hard time, and it's like, well, we're doing our best, or they brought 6 people. There's only 5 of us to
There's
pick
only
up a
so
blitz.
much you can do.
We can't block 6. So
Right. Yeah.
But no, I
Super
just
interesting.
try to learn from all the
Absolutely.
really good coaches out there.
Definitely. That's
Hopefully, bring it to my players.
absolutely. That's
But
so cool.
Let's see. Assuming we get to play this year,
Yeah.
2020, we'll be the 2-time defending Mountain Valley Athletic Conference champions.
Dude, that's awesome,
So
man.
we've had a lot of success over the past 2 years, and should have a really good team this year.
That's
So
awesome.
I'm hoping we'll get to play.
And we've talked about this before, but have you ever thought about coaching at a higher level?
A little bit,
A little bit.
yeah.
Well, it's a lot. no
lot.
doubt. It's a whole lot.
I don't know if I'm qualified yet
Well.
to try to make it, but it would be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. This is how you
It
start,
seems
man.
fun.
That's how you start.
I'd say it's a lot. It's a lot of work,
It is a lot of work.
and that's one thing. That's one thing I've getting into coaching is how much work
It's very competitive.
coaches put in that
Oh yeah,
that your normal fan just don't realize.
just the hours.
Yeah, like we have film study Saturday mornings at 8,
Ooh.
and I roll in, of course, 8:00, maybe a little later
Yeah.
after a Friday, after the game Friday.
Yeah.
Kind of tired.
Yeah,
And our head coach has been there since 6:40, 6:30, 7
my
o'clock.
and this is for high school too.
It is for high school, yeah.
Yeah, it's
So,
just like,
I
wow.
think Bill Belichick, if people want a job, he'll offer them. It's like $20,000 a year
Yeah,
and like 48 hours a week or 50 hours. It's some crazy
something
amount
nuts.
of work for very little
Yeah.
pay. Just to, if you really enjoy it and want to stick around,
Then you'll
he'll
do it.
keep you. But
yeah. But
you're gonna pay you're gonna
it'd be,
put in the work. But
It'd be pretty awesome to learn from him, man.
Yeah.
Like, if you ever get the opportunity, I'm gonna make you take it.
I think I would.
No, it's awesome. And like, speaking of Bill Belichick, it is astonishing to me when the environment is as competitive as the NFL is, and there's so much money goes into it, the moves he can make. But then again, and you sit there and look at it, it's like I think one of the big problems the NFL has, most coaches, they all try to imitate other people.
Yeah.
It's
a copycat league.
It's a copycat, right? That's what they say, right? It's a copycat league. And Bill Belichick is one of the only people I think that he actually thinks for himself at the end of the day. Like, I actually think he just sits there, he looks down at the blank sheet of paper and says, I think this is what we should do.
Yeah, I don't know how he does it, but it seems like he's always one step ahead of everyone else, and gets a lot out of his players.
Exactly.
Had Tom Brady, who's the 199th pick.
Yeah.
Chances are better if he hadn't been drafted to the Patriots, and of course got some lucky breaks to even get on the field.
Yeah.
He's a nobody.
Complete nobody.
But
which is
there
nuts.
He is, 6 Super Bowls later.
Exactly.
20-some years.
Nuts. Well, and it's like even more like this season I've been thinking about. We'll see how this plays out with Cam Newton. But if you look at it from a blank sheet of paper and you told me as a GM that I could get a MVP caliber quarterback for $1 million,
I'll take my chances. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
that he could be injured, but still.
And there have been a lot of players come out and say that, if Cam Newton ever learns how to play football, like really play NFL football, you won't stop him.
Yeah.
He's bigger. He's a defensive end.
Yes.
Playing quarterback.
It's nuts, man. And he's had 2 years to heal up.
And 2 years to heal up. Yeah. Yeah. I would take my chances.
Yes. I for $1 million, you would be stupid.
Cam, if you have any eligibility left in North Carolina high school football,
have we got the place for you, man? Have we got the place for you?
Has a spot.
Absolutely. That is super awesome.
And also, I don't want to take anything away from Tom Brady. He's, of course, had a very successful career.
Absolutely. But it really will be the natural experiment right now. I mean, less so now that we have Cam Newton. If we didn't have Cam Newton playing, it really would be a natural experiment. Is it Brady or Belichick?
Yeah.
Is it the manager or is it
I think
the player?
It's a little bit of both.
A little bit of both.
I think they'll both be very successful.
It'll be interesting.
It will be interesting.
I'm not sure. I think I'm actually of the mind. I think at the end of the day, it will be one or the other. Actually, surprisingly more than people think. I think it will be, probably 80% one way, 20% the other.
Yeah. And I think the hardest thing is going to be with, Belichick's the coach. Physically, he doesn't have to perform. He just had mentally, and
right.
He has to be there. But Brady, he's like 40, 43.
Yeah.
Which is old for a quarterback.
It is old
even on quarterback standards. He's getting pretty old.
He's pretty old.
Is it that he, in his prime, if he would have gone away,
right?
Would he, assuming he doesn't do as well,
That's a good point.
You've always got age that maybe
right.
He's just lost his Father Time's undefeated.
Exactly. Father Time is undefeated, and there's only so many repetitions that arm can handle.
Yeah.
But
I won't bet against him.
I wouldn't bet against him. I don't think I would bet against him, but yeah, I think if Belichick has a decent quarterback, I would not bet against Belichick ever. I think that's the truth.
And that's in this. I don't know if this is going to come out how soon, but if it's, and I don't, this, we may be playing football already, but where he had all these players opt out to not play.
Yeah.
Normal organizations, people are like, well, they just don't want to play, or they've got health and safety reasons. Yeah. And because it's the Patriots, everybody's like, what does Belichick know?
What does he know?
What does he know? We're looking at his right hand. What's he doing with his left hand that
exactly.
we're not aware of yet?
Exactly. Does the team get some benefit for opt out?
I don't know.
I'm really curious.
I don't know.
Salary cap space or something weird like
that's
that?
That's what they're thinking. That's what they're
that would be
assuming is that it's somehow going to open up salary cap space, and then those players are going to get to come back and he's got salary cap space to go sign some big free agent, and that,
Who knows, man?
anyone but Belichick. But he's always playing. He's playing chess.
Oh man, he's playing chess. Everybody else is playing checkers, man. No doubt, no doubt. That is super interesting. So I also wanted to cover another kind of shared interest we have. Early 20th century history, early to mid 20th century history. So I know you. Well, this is even earlier than that. I know you wrote a thesis on Martin Luther. Is that correct?
I did
Back in the day. That was pretty interesting.
I wrote one. I won't say it was enlightening or thought provoking, but,
But it happened.
it's a 20 some page paper that does exist.
Just like the 21 Theses, it went on somebody's door, so it's pretty good. But we also have a shared interest in World War II and the events leading up to it. Super interesting to look back on. Last week we were actually talking about kind of the tragedies in the Ukraine on the podcast.
Oh yeah, that's
Nuts and underrated. I would say.
You recommended. I think it's Bloodlands.
Bloodlands.
I don't know who it's
so we're
by,
checking
but
out.
it is. Yeah, it is worth. It is eye opening.
Yeah.
And even as someone that I studied mostly Germany, and then pre-Soviet Union Russia. Were kind of so I kind of skipped over the whole Stalin
Era.
Yeah, and it was. I mean, just the numbers alone are just
The numbers are staggering.
it's staggering.
Just mind blowing. It's so and as a side note for the listeners on today, Bloodlands describes the so traditionally we think of the Holocaust, the famines in the Ukraine, the gulags and the Soviet Union, but we don't traditionally think of everyone that was killed just on the Eastern Front.
Yeah,
Shot in forests, and it is a staggering number of people.
I think it talks. It's like it's the land between Hitler and Stalin.
Yep.
And so I haven't gotten it. They might be into work. They've just, I think, in where I am, they just have invaded Poland.
Oh man.
So things are just getting bad for some people, and have
popped
been
off.
pretty bad for some people for quite a
Everyone's-
while. So,
It's bananas.
but it's just. I mean, the Ukrainian. I was completely unaware.
Yeah, it's just nuts. Just
And
nuts.
then you hear, and then I mean, they couldn't win, and
Nope.
of course the government, they knew they were starving and dying, and they just didn't care, and they would make excuses. Well, you're harboring food because you're a kulak, or
yeah.
you don't care for the state, so we're not going to help you. And they didn't have the food. It's not that they were harboring it; they didn't have it. It didn't. I think they said the first year with the food quotas, they had a really great harvest. Just
Yeah.
kind of luck,
Still
of, the, luck
kind
of
of
the
work.
draw. And then after that, it was then that became the gold standard. And
Right.
even in a perfect world, they probably wouldn't have been able to reproduce that. And so
Well, and I think we have a great example here. Can we imagine if U.S. government came in and said, Avery, y'all at the Barr Farms, we're collectivizing the Barr Farms. You no longer own any of the profits of the trees that you sell. I have a feeling you would probably work a little less hard.
I think so as well.
I don't know. I don't know.
It depends how much skin I stand to lose.
Exactly. And even threatening to shoot you, I don't know. Maybe not the best incentive.
Yeah,
I don't know. Super interesting.
it is. And I've always and it's kind of a morbid fascination
Yeah.
with Nazi Germany and Hitler, and just how
Stalin.
and just how people can become so wrapped up
bad
into something.
and- yeah, no doubt. And everyone, too.
And and
Underrated.
And I think it was Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
He's a Canadian professor.
Psychology.
Psychology.
Yeah.
And he always talks about, people are always thinking, well, if I was in Nazi Germany, I wouldn't be part of the Nazi army.
Or if I was in
wouldn't be a
Vichy, France,
Yeah.
no way
I
I'm
would-
collaborating, right?
And he's like, well, unfortunately, I hate to tell you, chances are better. You probably would be, So it's I don't know. It's kind of how do you get there, and how can we stop it from ever happening?
Yeah.
Here or anywhere.
Again,
anywhere
exactly.
Else, And of course, those aren't the only two.
No.
I know, Mao's China certainly wasn't a pleasant place to be.
Pinochet's Chile, yeah. No,
even Robespierre's France.
Not quite rosy.
Yeah.
I've got to say. Yeah, it's super interesting. So there was a public opinion poll, and this has been verified, and I can't remember the exact numbers, but it was like 90% of people in 1934 in Germany supported the Nazi government. Like, everyone. And even when you look at the people that resisted, essentially, it was some generals in the army that thought Hitler was mismanaging the war. I mean, that is the extent of the resistance. There's a couple of college students, but there's so few you could write them on a couple pieces of paper, which is just so tough to grok.
Yeah,
it almost makes me think really bad things happen when you have 95+% of the population that agrees with it.
Yeah,
some wacky things. So whenever I see everybody's like, "Oh, that's fine," I'm like, man, I don't know. Are we missing something?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
it's bananas. But and the other thing that blows my mind is how temporally close these events are. Just how close we are in time to World War II. Zachary Taylor's grandson's still alive. I don't know if you knew that.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, well, Zachary Taylor had a kid at like 60-something, and this kid had a kid at 60-something, and so there you go. His grandson's still alive.
Awesome.
But World War II, like temporally quite close.
There's still quite a few veterans, so
still kicking around.
Still kicking around.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then also another is the kind of the lead up to World War I. Even is kind of an interesting. Like you had I can't remember how but it's like the sleepwalker, European sleepwalk.
Oh man,
is that nothing was ever like intentionally escalated so much, but it just kind of
slowly cranked up.
They assassinated Franz Ferdinand, and this drug X amount of people, and then it just Europe kind of collectively just sleptwalked into World War I.
Oh yeah,
and hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of deaths.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm looking this up right now. There's a great let's see, when I'm remembering when this book was published. Okay, there's a great book called The Great Illusion. It was published in 1909, and the thesis of the book was that there's this great illusion that conflict is coming in Europe, and that this would never happen, right? Like,
yeah. And when they went off to war, they were excited. They said, "Oh, this will be a quick war. We'll be home by Christmas."
Exactly.
4 years later, not so much.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. And then, and I actually, our roommate Wesley, Dr. Roden.
Dr. Roden.
I guess now
he's now Dr. Roden. That's right.
He sent me an interesting podcast talking about the 1918 flu and kind of post 1918, how it impacted certain things.
Yeah.
And one of the interesting things there was, I didn't really realize, but they were talking about Woodrow Wilson.
Oh yeah.
And the French prime minister or president, however, arguing over, what he wanted the
League of Nations,
and the French. He wanted Germany to basically, which ends up what happened. But they said up until a certain point, Woodrow Wilson was adamant. Like, they would get into a room and argue and scream at each other for hours on end. And then he came down with a sickness. And after that, he wasn't such a feverish defender of the League of Nations.
Really?
And France and the prime minister was able to get his way. And, of course, then you have reparations. And
all the,
reparations leads to
some bad stuff.
Of, the Nazis and Hitler, and then you have World War II. So, you just kind of that domino effect of the butterfly effect.
Exactly. How small things can.
How small Woodrow Wilson potentially contracting the Spanish flu of 1918.
Wow, that's super.
Which was really I didn't realize that either.
I didn't even know he got it.
I thought it was an interesting. It was NPR, I think.
Interesting. That's super cool. Yeah, it's weird how our realities are shaped out of these very small events and in very bizarre ways. That's super interesting.
And even like all the assassination attempts, and
Right.
Hitler was in World War One and
Yep.
survived.
Survive.
And then what was it, the Valkyrie, the
Operation
Tom
Overlord,
Cruise
yeah.
movie?
Yeah, absolutely.
And they said if the bomb hadn't been placed on one
Right,
side of that
wrong
table,
side of the table.
yeah, it would have killed him.
Yep.
Or if it hadn't been, or if the meeting hadn't been moved to the house instead of being in the bunker.
Exactly.
If it would have been in the bunker, the concussive blast would have
Right.
killed it pretty much anyone in the room, and
And
it
it
moved, and so then it had windows and
Yeah.
just crazy, little
How that
events
works.
that end up having such great impacts.
Exactly. I don't know. It's fascinating to me in German culture today how little you can talk about World War II. Like essentially, which is interesting, right? And it's also an example of a successful regime change. So when I think about it, Germany, there are still Stasi officers getting retirement benefits. There were probably even SS officers still getting benefits. Could be wrong about that. But like making sure sweeping things under the rug like that. Very weird, right? I don't know. It's interesting, but I just finished. There's a very popular German TV show. It's amazing, super complicated. It's about time travel. It's called Dark. Highly recommended. It's on Netflix. Very good. But so they time travel, from the present back to 1880 and all around, but magically miss this like 15-year period between around 1930 and 1945.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know, just put a black hole, and it's just ironic because it's about time travel, right? But it's completely been erased from the German consciousness that even happened.
And that's I hopefully will be able to travel over to Europe and explore all
Check things out.
But yeah, that's one thing I've always been kind of interested is how do they view it today?
How do they manage it? Yeah.
And apparently I've heard it's
And- and-
they don't really talk. They can,
They kind of know what happened.
they
but
know what
just
happened, but
pretend
there's
it-
no need to drag their nose through the mud or through the dirt.
Exactly. And I wonder, I don't know how on average the Japanese deal with it, but it's interesting.
I don't either.
No idea.
I know we kind of came in and rewrote their constitution.
We wrote it all. It's also interesting if you compare Germany and Japan and Iraq and Afghanistan. Well, didn't really do regime change as much in Afghanistan. So Iraq, Germany, and Japan. So Germany and Japan, look where they are now. Major OECD countries, very wealthy, both very rich, good places to live. Iraq does not seem to be on the same track.
No,
And we have how many years of experience with the other two, right? Like, pretty odd, right?
yeah, and
A tough thing to
The
grok.
Middle East is an interesting little area of the world.
Absolutely. Quite complicated.
Yeah,
I don't know.
it is very, and I don't know enough about it to have any
Right. Absolutely.
any opinions worth echoing. So,
Right.
but it is an
Yeah. But it's just an interesting fact, right?
we're
I
at,
don't know.
at least 15 years, I
Man,
guess.
how many years? Let me see. Iraq War. This is worth looking up. Let's see. Okay, that's hilarious. Wikipedia claims the Iraq War ended in 2011. Well, we're
Interesting.
still there, so I don't know if I can.
Maybe it's like a Vietnam and Korea.
Mission
It
accomplished.
never started, or it never. It
Yeah,
hasn't ended.
North Korea never ended.
Yeah.
It's just an armistice, right, or whatever. Super interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, so we've covered a lot of things today. Anything else worth discussing?
Not that I can think of.
Cool. So, where's the best place that we can find some bar evergreens here around Christmas time? So the Wilmington lot.
Wilmington lot is your best bet.
Gotcha. And are there some social media links I can share?
There
out
are.
on?
I think it's Bar Evergreens Wilmington
Gotcha.
lot. I think yeah, there's.
Awesome.
I think if you'll Google Christmas trees Wilmington, we pop up.
Gotcha.
And I know there's 3 or 4 different Facebook pages we've set up that are
Very cool.
Tree Lot Wilmington, Bar Evergreens, Wilmington Tree.
Awesome.
Every little bit. And so I don't know which one of those is the
Best one, but
we
get the
do
link.
have a we're on Facebook.
Okay.
I think it's on Google.
Gotcha. Awesome.
We do have a website, but it's more for wholesale,
Gotcha.
in which that's caused some problems. It's kind of funny. Well, because right now Christmas trees are kind of tight.
Really?
You know, there's kind of there's a large demand for Christmas trees, and
So is it cyclical in demand, or is it mainly cyclical in the supply? So is it that people will be like, oh man, I could see I could make a lot of money growing Christmas trees, so they plant a lot of Christmas trees, and then things get worse, and people like you that are in it for a long time just stay the course?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it a fashion thing where people are like, wow, I really want a live Christmas tree this year, and it goes up and down? What do you feel about that?
so supply is definitely cyclical.
Supply cycle.
You have,
Gotcha.
but so you've got natural gluts and
Yeah.
shortages, just kind of based on just exactly how you described it. That I can make some money selling Christmas trees. I'll plant a
And there's a
patch of-
12-year lag.
Yeah, and then you've got your So we're really this all stems from 2008, kind of the financial crisis. and
Really?
people not being able to afford to plant or
Couldn't get
couldn't and
financing for seeds and stuff.
and back then you could buy trees for cheaper than you could grow them. So people just said, well, I'll just buy them and not worry about dealing with them for 8 years. And then on top
wow.
of that, you also had a seedling and a seed shortage.
Okay,
And
gotcha.
so and so now we've been in a low supply area for
Interesting.
just probably 4 or 5 years now, 3 or 4 years, something. And
Gotcha.
so we're, as Bar Evergreens, we're starting to climb up out and be able to kind of get back to a more regular
Gotcha.
harvest number. But
So how do you try and plan for that? Because that's a super interesting challenge. Like I'm trying to think. I work in tech startups, so planning 12 years out, tough to grok, man. You know what I mean?
it is,
Which is good. It keeps lower players out. But I'm curious, how do you decide? Is it just kind of you think as much as you can and kind of guess about it, or
Yeah, you kind of know what you're annually gonna harvest and cut down, so you kind of have an idea of how many trees you'll need,
gotcha?
and so you can plant based on that. But then you also, and I don't entirely understand it,
Yeah,
so I've got a few more years of learning
Apprenticeship.
And then, like I said, you can plant your tabletops, and then cut through your tabletops, and then you've got your trees that can grow up to 5 to 6, 6 to 7, and so 6 to 7, 7 to 8, and those are really your big sellers.
those are the ones
Or
that
you're
sell
like
well.
6 to 7, 7 to 8, 8 to 9, 8
Gotcha.
to 9. So that's your big. That's where most of your harvest numbers come from, or the just kind of the standard sized trees.
Gotcha.
And so then, based on those numbers, you kind of get an idea of how many you can leave for bigger trees.
Interesting.
And so, it's a lot of planning and I guess a little bit of luck.
Right. Absolutely.
Luck and pixie dust.
Exactly. That's super interesting. And how many trees on average are you guys pulling out of the ground every year nowadays?
So we're hoping to get into the 45 to 60,000 range.
Holy mackerel! And how much land does it take for those?
We have 300 acres.
Wow.
And
Man, that's a lot of trees, man.
Yeah.
How many truckloads is that?
oh man.
And how do you transport them? So you bundle them up? You bundle them
So
up?
they go through a baler, which ties them,
Gotcha.
and then from there they load them onto trailers.
Gotcha.
20-foot track, just a standard. And you take those from the fields into the loading areas, and then you've got crews in the loading areas that kind of sort. For us, we do a lot more manual, so we sort them out.
Gotcha.
They unload it, and if it's a 5 to 6, they stick it
Right,
with
right.
5 to 6s, and we stand ours up on their trunks.
Gotcha.
And so that's kind of how and then from there they load you. So then when the truck gets there,
Yeah.
then you have your elevator, or we use an elevator, which takes the tree from the ground into the back end of the truck, and then from there,
Wow.
you've got guys in the truck that throw it and stack it into the trucks from the front back.
Oh, wow.
And so that's kind of the harvest process, but it's about three weeks of 7 days a week. I don't know how many trucks, 50 or 60 I would guess, but it may be more.
Wow.
And we've been really lucky for the past couple of years to only have a day or two where we had to stay late,
That's good.
8, 9 o'clock at night
Yeah,
having to load
getting
trucks.
them all
But
loaded.
so those are always fun nights after you've been working all day and
Right,
the truck rolls in at 6 o'clock or 5:30
Go back.
and you're, oh man.
Jesus.
But
Man. I'm just trying to think, are there any other farming activities that require, so like the same amount of time investment from like initial planting to harvesting, that also requires much labor ongoing? Because you could do like hardwoods.
Yeah.
And those are a long time.
yeah.
But you really, you have to clear some stuff sometimes, maybe.
Yeah.
But that seems to be much lower than every year going and spraying pesticide, make everything's okay, trimming, like a Christmas tree would be.
Yeah, I don't know. I would assume maybe the fruit tree industry.
Fruit trees could
Your
be it. That's
apples
true.
and-
Yeah.
Because I think they take a little time to
mature.
get big enough and mature to
It's interesting.
produce fruit. But no, I guess going back, I meant to say this earlier, but so some places that when they'll load them from the fields, they'll load them onto trailers, all at this. They'll load the same size all together,
Yeah.
and when they get to the loading yard, they've either got like a boom or a fork, like a big forklift
Yeah.
that will scoop it up and unload the whole trailer at one trailer at a time.
Oh, wow.
And from there, you can, if you want to stand them up, you can go through and stand them up.
Yeah.
Or if you want to just leave them laying on the ground, then you're
Good to go.
good to go. And so that can greatly reduce your kind of the manpower, and
Required.
then you could have a whole nother crew loading a truck or
Right.
doing whatever
That's super
needs to
interesting.
be done.
Super interesting.
So and we've got some technological advances. It's still a lot of manual labor,
Really?
and luckily we've got H2A
Oh, yeah?
migrant workers
Gotcha.
come in and help us, and a lot of them have been with us for 20 plus years, as long as I can remember.
That's really cool, man.
And we've got brothers and
Right.
nephews and
Very cool.
son-in-laws or brother-in-laws.
That's awesome.
So it's been a lot of fun. We've even had some fathers and sons, and
Oh, wow. That's cool, man.
so, yeah.
Good recurring.
So it's
stuff.
been, and then and of course that really helps too, having people come back year after year, and so then they know what they're doing. It just takes
Right.
a lot of stress off of my
trying to
dad
teach
having
too.
a little not having to reteach the same stuff every year,
Right. Yeah.
and having a little confidence that you can get some consistent quality out of your work.
Exactly. That
When
really
people
helps.
know when they get a bar tree, they know kind of what
It's going to be good.
it's going to be good.
I can attest. It's awesome. You got me one or two before. They're awesome. Super cool. Awesome. Well, you have anything else cover? I think we've done the whole life
That's
cycle.
pretty good.
Good stuff. Awesome. Well, Avery, thank you so much for coming on. We'll have to have you on again when you get that head coaching job in the SEC. One day, man.
That sounds good.
Absolutely.
Well, that's our show for today. I'm Will Jarvis. And I'm Will's dad.
Join us next week for more narratives.